What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the demo album by rock band Evanescence. Basically this product is called Origin and it came out in the fall of the year 2000. So the thing about this particular product is this is kind of like the pseudo true debut of Evanescence as far as those fairs kind of particularly happen. Now Evanescence had also put out some EPs in the past, like the late 90s, as far as those fairs going to happen. I'm not sure if those particular products had full bound new songs. I'm going to get to those if they did within that particular pitch, but this is one of the, for the most part, I've covered every single Evanescence product as far as those fairs can happen, so I want to get to this one here. And this is a pretty ghastly type product, a little bit more so than Fallen, where Fallen was a little bit more commercialized, definitely had that gothic pierciness, definitely within the pitch, definitely an emo classic out of the early 2000s. Fallen got to like four or five singles, something like that, went 7 times platinum. Definitely a big deal for like the waning days of new metal as far as those pitch can happen, this overall alternative metal. But this particular one has a little bit more shrillness about it. Definitely reminds me of something like the movie by Arnold Schwarzenegger, End of Days. It's that kind of demonicness, it's that hellishness just from the pitch behind. A real nice dirge of a product. Really appreciate the aspect here. Also reminds me of some ones like pretty much like Constantine by like with Keanu Reeves, some of those type pitches, tones like that within the essence of just a real shrouded type one. Not just ones within that particular aspect, but also just the aspect, just some real demonic type fare just in the pitch. I think some other ones within that fare, but just kind of the concept. You can tell by the album cover that this is a little bit more gothic within a sense. I mean, it has the gothicness and the emo-ness on here, but it's just kind of within the early stages that I feel like this particular folk, Amy Lee and Ben Moody on this particular product did some good fares about this as far as that kind of went, just because it's definitely very trendy for coming out in the year 2000. Like this was kind of ahead of the time as far as this pitch can happen. Apart from maybe folks like Blink-182, Good Charlotte, there wasn't actually a ton of emo. There wasn't actually like a ton of emo rock kind of going around within those pitches. I mean, it was kind of here and there, but it wasn't as full bound, kind of widespread like a deal within those pitches. So this is kind of the initial type concepts. This is one of the ones. Definitely feels like a staple here as far as some of the initial type ones. In certain cases, I feel like this competes with Fallen. Now, Fallen is definitely like a classic in terms of the impact of it, just the notable type one in terms of one that you can purchase. But this one's a little bit trickier to find. It is on like the vinyl edition with that package, every Evanescence product damn near. But this one, in terms of getting this on the CD, is a little bit more pricey within the pitch, but it's definitely worth it to get. But it's just a little bit trickier just in the pitch. It seems like the band is not as commonly, like Amy Lee supposedly doesn't have as much adoration for this particular product. Not to say she doesn't like it at all, but it seemed like in the past it was just kind of elusive type product, kind of similar to Eminem with Infinite and some of those type albums within those pitches. It's kind of more in like a usual kind of collector's item type format. It would definitely be an excellent thing to see this kind of manufactured on CD. I just feel like by this particular stage it definitely needs to happen, because this is like the virtual cusp of being a classic here. Only true thing that prevents it full bound from being a classic, I mean, it's not like it's not a classic, but just the impact, there are just a couple of repeat songs. Now at least Imaginary has the concept of having like a little bit more in like a demo type format of the song that was on the Fallen album, but the other two, My Immortal is just like it was on 2003 album. Whisper is kind of the same way. Now, I don't know if Whisper was kind of more on Anywhere But Home from 2004, if it was on Fallen. I think it was on Fallen as well. It was just kind of within the pitch. So concept about it is, but the impact of this particular product, the trendiness, like the DVD era in the early 2000s, kind of night rave type scene within pitches like that, has some of that on here just within the pitch. Also like a real kind of just a little bit more, just it feels a little bit more cretinous compared to like Fallen, I'd have to say, within the pitch. Fallen's a little bit more gothic, like I was saying, just the pitch behind it is a little bit more honing like the Scream-queen type sound that Amy Lee became known for within pitches like that. But this one just has a little bit more just like carnal, kind of in your face, kind of just like claws are out type pitch, just within the aspect, just a little bit more just kind of like Saturnalia type craziness factor within the pitch behind. So it's an excellent type concept, just seeing them more on like a ground level type aspect, just a little bit more localized residential type fare within like the aspect, just like some more kind of feralness. So this is a feral type product, really kind of out of the ordinary for Evanescence. It's not to say that this album is full of like dance cuts and pitches like that. It's not like it doesn't have those, but it's just within the pitch as far as saying it's just a little bit more, it just kind of particularly feels a little bit more amongst like the hauntiness more so than like the full bound, just kind of more. This one just doesn't feel as lofty within the pitch behind, so it's just kind of an aspect, just kind of feels amidst like the city streets of like Carnage pitches like that as far as those aspects going to go. So it's a good type tone, but I like the tone behind it. Just being able to say, now there was one single off this product as far as that particular fair kind of happens. I look after it, it was Whisper, which was not a single on Fallen from 2003, but I look after the concept here as far as being able to say the aspect behind it. It's basically the same songs on the 2003 and 2004 albums by Evanescence, but even though I've talked about this song in the past, maybe not in terms, I reviewed both I reviewed Fallen from 2003 back in like 2016, so I'll probably go ahead and talk about Whisper again. I don't know if I talked about Whisper back in 20 2023, also when I reviewed Anywhere But Home, but just from the pitch. So basically Whisper is like a trendy kind of early 2000s action-packed fun to kind of get here. Just the concept of like some of that early, it's the concept of like that Carnage from like 2001, 2002, some of that particular pitch, DVD era kind of nightclub hop to kind of get here. Good pitch for that. Just some Cage Night kind of craziness just with the impact behind it. So definitely good aspects here. Just within the tone, just kind of has the ground level type aspects just within a relative type fare. I do like the concept of some step out within the pitch. For 2000, this was definitely pretty blistering within the pitch. I mean, this felt trendy in 2003 when this showed up on the Fallen album. It's just a good type pitch. Kind of get this in like its early stage, just the concept. There are some other ones on here within that relative type pitch that have that same sort of craziness. Like I feel like Even in Death is a pretty good one for that. I feel like Away From Me is a pretty good one for that. Some of these type pitches kind of get that particularly here. Imaginary is a real good one within that pitch, even though that's on. I mean, the demo type format Imaginary is pretty good. And some of those type ones just within the pitch behind it. There's not a super ton of like the crazy type factor of like, it's not a super ton of like the dance club type blisters that are on Fallen, but it's a good type pitch of just seeing it in a more kind of bare bones type format within the pitch behind. So it nails those particular vibes. And just be able to say out of the 11 songs in this particular album, basically the pitch behind it, I'm not going to count the origin. I was kind of thinking, I mean, that one has a little bit of creeping type factor about it, relatively modest within the pitch, but just say out of the 10 songs on here, including the Eternal instrumental, which is good type tone for that, I wound up recommending basically every single song just within pitch. I mean, just within the concept, just within pitch. Now, I would have to say the unfortunate thing, even though I recommend every song out of the songs that are songs on here, including the Eternal instrumental, the thing about it is just the factoid as far as saying that because 2 of these songs are also on Fallen, and then the trickiness to get this particular product, whether or not you're going to have to fork over, 3 digits worth of money to get this particular album, something like that. It's just kind of the essence that I would give this album a 10 out of 10 normally because the impact behind it, but the repeat songs and just the overall looseness of this project probably makes it have to be like a 9.75. It's just within the pitch. I just like the more kind of just back burner type aspect behind just within the pitch, like its availability in pitches like that. I mean, there's the concept of it just within the pitch. It is definitely worth it to get these songs, kind of similar to like the Hybrid Theory EP by Linkin Park. Some good type pitches, definitely has some feralness. There's a good shade of like Evanescence here that's just different from their usual type tones, just a little bit more in rough draft and kind of more ground level type format. It's just kind of the pitch as far as saying you really only get about maybe 7 new songs in terms of the impact. Basically like an EP's worth of new songs within the pitch as far as getting stuff that's not to be found elsewhere, I'd have to say, within the pitch behind, but still good. So it's just the concept, the quality of it is definitely 10 out of 10. It's just the impact. The actual score is going to be a 9.75. So let's talk about some of these. Like basically Eternal's a real nice one on here. The instrumental, like I was saying, it's like a ravenous but contemplative kind of commerce kind of get here. Just a super dope kind of melodrama about this one. Just an early bird kind of emo gem within some of those type pitches. It's a nice one to mellow out to some of those type pitches. I mean, I guess not so much mellow out, but just kind of pitch. It keeps you on your tones. Just a good one to kind of brood a bit and just have the concept like some dark kind of cruising as far as this pitch kind of happen. Good type tone. This I think they probably should have done a song like this. This is the same sort of haunting fare that's on like the Open Door from 2006. This is like a good primer for the sort of stuff that they were doing more later. This one's a little bit more gothic tinge compared to the rest of the album. I'd say it's like the sort of sound that they honed a lot more later. This feels more like Scream-queen type territory, emo queen pitches like that. I'd have to say just within the pitch behind it, Scene Queen, some of that type fare. Just look after the aspect, real nice one within that particular time. Just real thunderous type one, just excellent type fare within that. The demo song, Imaginary, is a nice one. Now, once again, this can be found on, like, Fallen from 2003, but I like this particular one because it doesn't have, like, the haunting piano beat on this particular one, the original version of this. It's like a good demo version, like the Gothic version from 2003. It's just a little bit more militant and shrouded, it has to say about this one. Just a little bit more of, like, a dirge type song within the pitch behind it. Yeah, just real shrouded type one, just real excellent dirge typeness, kind of get there. Just real, like the real piercingness of this particular song. Just probably pretty a gas type one. Just the ground level type format of this really works extremely. Just good pitch for that. Another nice one within some of these type pitches within the same type fare. I mean, I feel like the Imaginary is probably good for like some venue type fare. Just a little bit more kind of just melodramatic, I'd have to say. But songs like Away From Me and like I feel like songs like Away From Me and Whisper have a little bit more dance raveness just about them within the particularness. Lies is another nice one for that conduct as well. So Away From Me is like a pulsating kind of dance club noise kind of get here. It's rousing kind of raised sparks about this one in particular. Good type fare. Reminds of like Evanescence's 2011 album. Just a little bit more social spark about it. Not quite as dramatic, but just a good concept to have for some of that gothicness. Definitely just hits the ground running. It has to say here very litty type one kind of get. So, yeah, just very trendy to early 2000s that I had to say about Away From Me. Just good type pitch for some of that DVD era type fare within the pitch behind. Good concept for some of that, not good concept for some of that type goodness, and just like some ambience and like raves and cage, nice pitches like that. Some of that particular social step out type thing. Good aspect for some of that, just easy kind of trendy hit. Same thing with Lies that I'd say is like a good ghastly, Lies like a good ghastly companion to Whisper. I'd say here, good 1-2 punch for that particular fare. Just early 2000s kind of rowdiness, definitely going to get just some get crunk kind of vicious indulge going to get here within those pitches. Definitely some backyard fun, some smokage with your pals, pitches like that. Typical type conduct of some of that particular trendiness just from the aspect behind it. Just typical kind of Evanescence, ripped out of 2003, 2006, just a little bit earlier, more rough draft type version that's just as vicious within the tone. So it's just good conduct. Good conduct here, definitely like some good feralness just within the concept of just being able to really get crunk and just indulge a bit and just have some good times within the aspect of having some snack runs, just having some snacks nearby and some tokens just from the pitch of like the good concept of having like a pretty ferocious Thursday, Friday night, some of those type fairs I had to say. So there are some post-grunge ones on here that are pretty excellent as well. Field of Innocence is a real nice one for some of that type fair. It's like a malaise kind of post-grunge winding to kind of get here. Field of Innocence like a malaise kind of post-grunge winding to kind of get here. Just a typical kind of brushy commute I'd have to say. Great autumn type music and a dark ruminate to kind of get within some of those type pitches. So I feel like definitely Field of Innocence and Anywhere have that particular fair about it. This just feels ripped out of something that would have been like a typical kind of dredge type one from like 2005, 2006, something that Trapped or Alien Ant Farm, Papa Roach, some of those type folks would have done with like their second, third, or fourth single. It's just a little bit more commerce in mind, but Evanescence kind of does it in like a super malaise type sense. So it's like a real emo type song, kind of get within some of that type fare, but it's really trendy for the time because there weren't really songs doing this apart from maybe Blink 182. When you think of like a song like Adam's Song or some of those type pitches that kind of had that relative malaise, but Evanescence is that real good pitch for some of that just was not a super kind of common, especially for like the the mid-year. It's just not as quite common, especially for like the fall of the year 2000. Really, folks like Foo Fighters and Creed and some of those type folks, Stain, some of those type folks hadn't really as full-bound, really spread out with some of those type songs to be able to do it. So it's a good type pitch, despite the fact that Evanescence was not really post-grunge within the sense of them still being able to nail that particular vibe. So some good type tones for that, some great autumn music, just another real demonic type one, and like a more makeshift type sense. And it's the same thing with Anywhere here. It's like a morbid kind of post-grunge after hours gazing, kind of get within those concepts. It's just some great sunset music, extra dark traverse that I'd say here, and just an early bird kind of highlight from them as far as those pitches kind of have. So it's a good type tone, them finding them Anywhere is just a good type tone for them finding their sound as far as those pitches kind of have, and just the concept of just being able to get towards it. It's kind of the pitch of just Anywhere just feels like a swash kind of halfway rainy type day within the pitch of something like the autumn bound typeness just within the pitch behind it. Just typical makeshift type fashion, just that typical kind of moody type dredge within the pitch behind it. So it's good commerce as far as those fairs going to happen, just makeshift in like their early days, them having the pitch behind it, just being able to nail some of those for like a more typical commerce, and just pitches like that standard workaday type fair, just in a more gothic sense, or at least more glazed, at least more alternative glaze type sense within pitch. And then Where Will You Go is a nice one as well. It's like a haunting kind of organ play gloom to kind of get here. It's kind of one for like some commerce, just some night commerce within the pitch, just snack run, kind of contemplate hit to kind of get within those aspects, whether it is on foot, it's getting like frozen burritos, some of that type fare, just some good snacks, some of that particular type pitches, or just the concept of just being out corn nuts, some of that type fare, just within the aspect of having some of that, but just kind of within the commerce of just some night air and some of that typical commerce of just getting some stuff done within the aspect, just having some extra time, or just some fares like that. Just kind of not quite as makeshift as Field of Innocence and Anywhere, but just within the pitch of just night commerce, just stuff on your mind or stuff to do within the pitch of just like for their night activity, but doesn't necessarily feel like a more recreational kind of festivity type song within the pitch. That's the concept. But then Even in Death, this is a real surprising type one. This is one of the most cretinous ones on here. Really like the appeal behind this. This is unlike most of the stuff that Evanescence has kind of done within those pitches. There's like a screwy kind of dismantled after effects of a song kind of get here, just some after hours drifting I would feel like, and just a morbid kind of commerce. This one goes within the relative same fashion of Where Will You Go, just a little bit more demonic within a sense. It's really some October type fare. This feels like Red Skies pitch like that, something out of like a Hellboy movie or one of those type ones, Van Helsing, some of that type fare, just more horrorcore type fashion. Definite gothic tinge, just works within the aspect behind it. Good type fairs for some of that. That's the pitch behind this particular album. My Immortal, like I was saying, is the same as it is on Fallen, so it's the pitch behind it as far as those fairs going to happen. So it's just the concept. You get some makeshift songs on here, you get some night commerce type ones, Field of Innocence and Anywhere, some makeshift type songs post-grunge wise, Where Will You Go, and Even in Death, like some night commerce, just kind of more Where Will You Go and Even in Death are just some night commerce type ones, just a little bit more hellish within the pitch behind it. It's a good aspect for some of that demonic type fare. They say there's some dance club songs in here, and like Away From Me and Lies, some of those type pitches. pitches, and even Whisper within some of those type fares. And then I'd also say Eternal's like some good makeshift type commerce, like a more emo type sense and a more ravenous type format. So that's the pitch behind just a lot of these. Probably would have liked another song like My Immortal as well. That still continues to be one of Evanescence's best songs in terms of like the overall just in terms of the overall impact of the melodrama type factor. They have plenty of these. Like there was one like Hello's pretty good within that relative pitch, but that's like a real standout. Definitely needs some more fares like that. But most of it sounds pretty gassy within the sense, not really to not really to try to snag this product within those prospects, because it does impactfully hit every single song on here within some fashion, even the repeat song. So it's good type pitch, so it's good type fare. Still going to get a 9.75. Still going to get a 9.75. The demonicness is at a high on this particular product. Just more ground level. This new fares that Evanescence tried out that they didn't really adapt to later on. They kind of ditched some of this ground level typeness within the pitch. Didn't really do as much post grunge later on. Didn't really do as much kind of more. I mean, they did do rave music, but just kind of the early 2000s kind of DVD warning type stuff that they kind of did just within the pitch of like this particular album. Just switched it up a little bit later on, but they definitely continue some of those nightclub type rave more moments, but they're just a little bit more commercial. They're a little bit more commercial later, not necessarily more watered down, but just in the pitch they just had a little bit more commercial kind of vanilla packaging. But this is definitely some just hardcore type stuff within the pitch, just more just like unfiltered, I have to say. So it's a good type pitch for that. So yeah, social score I will go ahead and give. I'm going to give the social score like a 9.75 as well. Within the pitch behind, I would give it a 10 if the availability of it was a lot higher. I'd like to actually purchase this product to be able to get it, but I don't know if I would have to fork over like, $100 something something within those relative type pitches, just, for like 7 or 8 songs within those fares. But it is excellent, worth it within the pitch behind. It's not like this album would not be worth the money in terms of like a more richer, having more money type format. It's just kind of the pitch as far as saying that the availability definitely needs to be manufactured a lot further. This is something, I think Amy Lee does like this product. I think Ben Moody does like this product. I think the band does like this product as far as these fairs going to happen. I think they do like it. It's just kind of the concept. It's just kind of a collector's item, that the pitch behind it is just not grafted like the newer times as far as like the concept. Not saying in terms of quality, but it's the concept of just getting it adapted to where you can actually purchase this and have it more bumping out of people's vehicles and pitches like that. It's more in like sound systems and places where it wouldn't be as much of a rarity. So that's the only real natch to it. But in terms of social aspects, yeah, the makeshift songs, the rave songs, the step out, the night commerce, snack runs, pitches like that, so smokage, backyard fun with your pals. There's plenty of great conics for that. Just Evanescence in their prime doing that and just having some real feralness. That's the tone. But in terms of the future, like Evanescence has not dropped an album since 2021, but we're going to get to some more of these. I might review their EPs that had some of these songs on there if they had some new stuff. But within the pitch, basically I reviewed every Evanescence project now. So just within the pitch, minus those EPs that might have some new stuff on there. If they don't, then I've reviewed everything as the pitch. So check out the Evanescence playlist, find a bunch of these. Just enjoy like the criteria that I reviewed with a bunch of these. There's some good concepts. They definitely have plenty of classics under their belt.